Well, welcome to October, and we have much to show. Been a very busy month, both for everything that I do for work and also been able to get a lot done. This is exciting because for me, I'm celebrating all the footprint of the layout is done. As a matter of fact, I'm on the last peninsula right here. This has not been seen at all. And I've been slowly but surely getting some things unboxed, just checking things out, making some size changes. But a lot of track has been laid as well. We're going to get to some of the things here. I've been working on the Longmont Y, and we're going to just take an overview of the whole layout so you get a chance to see it. So right now, we'll move the camera a little bit, and we'll make a shift over to what's new so you can see what's going on. Well, here we are at the Longmont Y. This is actually Longmont. On the other side of this hole right here, he goes out to the sugar mill, which is up. And this is what I've been primarily working on, is getting this Y laid out. This is a critical piece. And the leg that runs down there goes to the upper staging yard. This runs to the sugar mill and then down to the lower staging yard. And then this leg right here runs out to the rest of the main and towards Denver. This is a lot of real estate, and there are some features that I had to really kind of take a look at. If you notice right in front of you, there are two turnouts. One has a 1, 2, 3 block on it, and the other one's in place. So obviously from here to that far one is over 4 feet away from the front of the table, which means I would have to reach into this and actually climb across a bunch of scenery to work or repair that turnout if I needed to. But as it happens to be, where you're standing is the edge of the table on the other side. And eventually there'll be a backdrop right there where that edge of the plywood is that you're seeing. And in there, from that aisle away to that turnout is 26 inches away. So that piece of the backdrop has to slide out so that I can gain access to those two turnouts and work on them if I need to. And at 26 inches, I can easily reach in and work on the turnouts. So one of the design features in this was building this Y was I had to figure a way to reach those two turnouts. And that's what I did. I finally came to the conclusion the easiest way to do it was to have a piece of the backdrop. It's probably about 2 feet. And it sits on a miter, a T-slot miter, and then I'll just lift out the entire section, set it aside, and then be able to reach in and work on that turnout if I need to. I may never need to, but if I don't plan it ahead of time, that's going to create some problems. So what have I been working on? Really, the biggest thing I've been working on is starting to work with these backdrops. Now, this is a backdrop from an outfit called Train Junkies. And really am impressed by the backdrops. I've been working with William already a little bit on another backdrop, and I can actually get some of these custom built. And yeah, it's a little pricey to have them custom built, but for me to paint, there's a little over 180 feet of backdrop that I'd have to paint by hand, and that's a lot of painting. And I wanted to do something a little different this time. I wanted to use a photo backdrop. And this really creates a dramatic scene by doing that and really gives it a sense of expanding out. But one of the things I see with every backdrop I run into, even with these, is that I don't need all of the backdrop or I don't need everything else. And as a modeler who has scratch built, kit bashed, and custom built and my own models, I tend to look at things a little differently. So in this case, I'm looking at the backdrop going, I can make some changes here. So this one is up. I really bought it just to see how it looked and see how it fit onto the model layout, and it works fantastic. What I think I'm going to end up doing is probably cutting a little of this off, creating a little scene in here. This is the why does it escape me right now? This is one of the foundries that's in Longmont. Over here, I don't think you can see it. No, you can't see it. is the co-op granary, and then right in front of you is Atwater Street, where the street run is, and that's going into there. The bank that I've started on that's going to be sitting on the corner there is the Farmers Bank, and it was around in 1909, and so that is also another model that I'm going to do a little kit bashing to make that work. Now, to be absolutely fair with you, I have here roughly, this is an 8-foot sheet of plywood right here, and I have probably about another 6 more feet, so that makes it 12 feet by, well, there's 4 at the midpoint, and you probably got another 5 more feet at that wedge sitting in there. So I would say that I'm roughly got about a 14 by 12 foot area here in a wedge triangle shape to create Longmont. That is going to be a very challenging task. So what I did is I picked certain elements from Longmont that I really wanted to see. Western Foundry, that's the name of this industry I want to see. The co-op I want to see here. Longmont Foods I want to see here. And Atwater Street. I added the bank because it had been around for a long time and it fit on the corner, and it'll do a job of blocking some scenery that I need to get blocked as well. And then when I do this backdrop, I'm going to shorten it down, only take up to the corner and run the rest of it as just clouds in the back. And then I'm going to put some trees in there from another backdrop that I have, and then put trees behind the houses and fill in my Atwater Street to make it look like a block that's down into there. So a lot of moving parts as I begin to figure this out and go through it. As you notice right there where you can see there is a street corner right there, and all of my buildings will be set up to line that so that that street will come across on this backside here. Atwater Street will run parallel to the tracks there, and then there'll be a street coming over here, and then a couple streets over here where the Western, the Farmers Co-op and the and Longmont Foods are at. So Longmont Foods is going to be bigger this time. I have the space. I'm going to actually put it on there. I'm also going to put some buildings back behind there to kind of add to the backdrop. Now, the backdrop that's coming across here is a double-sided, from the corners there where you're at, is a double-sided backdrop. So on this side, it'll be something similar to this. I haven't quite nailed down what I want to do. I've got a couple ideas of some things I've been looking at and a couple different backdrops I may use. But I've been working with William, like I said, and I have a feeling I'm going to probably be using a lot of his stuff because it really works well and it's going to fit. And with some minor tweaking to some of the backdrops he's got, I can probably fit in exactly what I'm looking for in here. So I'm really looking forward to that. But that puts this into here, which now means that I have a complete S. Every time I got to go work in Denver, I have to make a lot of steps to get back in there. But hey, it's coming together. I'm very pleased with what I see here. But here we go. This is Longmont. This is much bigger than it was last time. So again, when I said that I was moving here, that the area was going to be smaller, I was not going to have the 900 square feet. And I really am not too far off. I'm only about 125 square feet smaller than with the last one. But by removing some of the towns that I had, I'm now able to focus onto this, which will be very interesting. So this will be a major area of operations that'll be going into here. You've got the Y coming out and allowing you to come from the sugar plant, turn your locomotive around and head back to Denver. And then we'll have a turntable in Denver to do the reverse. So really looking forward to getting this all set up. But I set a goal that maybe I'd have trains running on the main line by November. This has got to be slowed down just a bit because I have no control over how long it's going to take us to get backdrops and get them designed. But it's absolutely paramount that these backdrops get put in place, because once the backdrop material goes up, it's going to be very hard to work into this area. So I have to do a lot of modeling, a lot of scenery and all back in here before I bring that area back in there. got a couple ideas of things I might do, but it's going to get more difficult if I don't have backdrops figured out right away. So really that's what I've been spending a lot of my time on. Now there are only probably about 4 real backdrop companies. There might be more. I mean, I'm always ears for whatever anyone can come up with that would work, but I really am going through a lot of them. I also am using Railroad Graphics backdrops and some of their buildings and flats and things like that to kind of fit this all together, and it's going to be added all together. So I'm really kit bashing some of my backdrops too. So it'll be interesting to see what comes out of it. But from there, let's take a look at what's been going on at the sugar mill. Well, here we are at the sugar mill. And the main line has been laid and it is powered and I can run trains up and down it. Not past the switch yet, but that's only because I don't have the Y hooked up, and if I turn it in right now, I get a little short. So I need to finish that turnout, that curved turnout, which I am doing. And once that's done, I'll be ready to put this all together and then have at least be able to run trains from the lower staging yard to the upper staging yard through the sugar mill area. If you've been on the Facebook group, you've seen a lot of this stuff, and I really am glad to have the sugar mill back out again and in location here. I've been working on this backdrop right here. This is a 23 plus inch backdrop. I think it's about 279, 280 inches across. And I've been working with the train junkie, William from there, to get this design and get this figured out. Now, one of the things that you'll notice is I got a shadow here because unlike the main layout room, it's a little darker in this area here. I'm thinking about putting some track lighting eventually in here to kind of supplement the lighting that's in here. But for filming purposes, I just pull out some extra lights and then I can take a video. Usually when I'm in here working, it's not that bad at all, but of course, cameras don't work exactly like the human eye. So nonetheless, you see a lot of shadows that are in the wall here that eventually, and most of the time, are not even here. But once we get the backdrops in, I'll start thinking about lighting and doing some stuff like that. This is all going to be edge lighting and lighting down onto this scene. So it's not something I have to run out and go do right away. And I'm probably going to set it up on a separate switch, entirely different from the lights that are normally in here, because this is the crew lounge area right over here, and this is also where we spend time with our entertainment as well, so TV watching and things like that. So it'll be really nice. You can see that the sugar mill, the main buildings are out here. I've got the wash rack that George Booth sold to me. I love it. It's a gorgeous piece. I also got the tower that's in here. This portion of the layout has been redesigned several times. I'm holding the latest design right here, and I'll post it on the in the video so you can take a look at it. And it's been on the Facebook page. I think the current design that's on the Facebook page does not have the new design that we came up with. And the real purpose of that is that this is basically the main line. This is the passing line, which is also part of the interchange line. There's a third track that goes in here that is truly the interchange line. And then the Great Western Sugar Company handles all the switching and operations within here. So in an operational type situation, we might have just 2 people just right here alone, just operating, keeping track of cars. Estimation, they're going to be dealing with about 50 cars at a time, any given time coming into here. Empties, fulls, the whole thing. So they got to run their sugar beets through the wash rack. They got to maintain the coal for the power plant. And then they've got to also manage the pulling out of box cars and tank cars for molasses and sugar. So there's a lot of activity that's going on. This is one of the main industries in the area. And this is really, in 1959, this is on the edge of town. It's not really in town. It's on the edge. So the backdrop here will be more of a prairie scene with the mountains in the backdrop. The mountains are actually located this way but I'm taking a little artistic license, going to shift them because it gives the feeling of that you're in the Colorado Front Range if I put the mountains up into here. Plus, town is located over there, and it just gets really confusing when I'm trying to do backdrops. So I really am looking forward to this getting put together. This will be the first part, other than the Longmont Y, that will be finished and completed and put together, mainly because this by itself is its own layout. This is a single switching layout that you simply can operate with one or two guys. And it'll be a lot of fun to do that. Because the staging yards are in place too, I can easily bring in cars from the staging yard, bring them into here, and still operate this layout all by itself. So that's really what I'm looking forward to. It's going to be a lot of fun to do that. So that's what's going on Longmont. This, like I said, this is all complete. One of the things that if some of the folks have seen my first railroad, what I did is I am not a fan of HO scale rail joiners. They're just huge. They're too big. Just enormous things. And I'll take a photograph of my rail joiners, what I'm doing in here. And what I'm using are N-scale rail joiners. So an N-scale rail joiner is code 80, and this is code 83. So I'm 0.03 of an inch off. I simply have a tool that I can slide the N-scale rail joiner on. It spreads it out just a little bit, the 0.03 that it needs, and then I bring them together, and then I solder them together, and the joiner disappears entirely. Once you paint it, you can't even see it anymore. And it just makes it more prototypical, not having that big hunkin' rail joiner in there. So that's one of the things that I do. If you've noticed, you can see the white running all the way down here. I do use caulk just to lay my tracks down. I also use both N and HO scale cork bed. So this is HO scale, obviously, right here. This is N right here. They're 1/8 of an inch different in height. And so to delineate between the main line and the passing siding, I use just simply the N scale cork down here. So the HO on each end gets tapered down it takes about 12 inches for me to taper it down. And I use cards and some different sanding tools and files and things like that to taper it down. And when I have it tapered down and just in that flat area, matter of fact, it's what's going on in Longmont too, the grade on that is about 0.5% over 12 inches to drop that down just that 1/8 of an inch. And so it works out really well. The cars can even sit on the grade and they don't move that much. Occasionally they'll shift a little bit, but not nearly as much if they were on a 1 or 2% grade. This entire area here is on about a 1.5% grade. The lower end down here and the upper end back towards you there. But the yard in here is pretty much flat. It's got a little hill. It's really flat right in here where a lot of the turnouts are at into here. Through this area in here, it's very flat into there. But occasionally in the back down here, just a little bit, there's a little taper back to the back. And it's only about 0.25% of a grade. So really very flat for the most part. Down towards the back end there, where the only thing that's there is the tail for the yard, and that's got a grade of about 1%. So, for the most part, this is a very flat area. Mark and me spent just a ton of time going through this with track, our levels, and a car, and making sure that the car could sit wherever we put it on the track, anywhere on this area here. Because nothing is more frustrating than having cars that you dropped and spotted sliding down the rails because it's not level. Now the only area that I'm going to have a small problem is, of course, through this area in here. And cars will be stopped on this passing siding and the interchange. So what I'm going to have to do is make a hand brake that goes into place. And what I'll do is I'll just basically have a cam that'll bring up a pin and catch the axle on the end car closest to the turnout there, and that'll hold all the cars back so that you can they'll stay in place, and then you can take your locomotive, go around and turn around, and in the meantime the Great Western can come in here, pull the cars, get them moved, and they just basically put the brake on, take the brake off, put the brake on, take the brake off until they get exactly what they need. So again, another operational thing. It slows down a little bit in the area here, but it will work really well. I'm looking forward to it. So let's take a look at the last area I've been working on, which is Denver itself. As I said, I've been working on this bench work, and I had been struggling a little bit with a little project, and I finally came up with a solution. So I want to share what it is I'm going to be doing there. So we're going to go back into the main layout room, and we're going to look at the bench work of Denver. And as you can see, Union Station is unpacked. Now this is not its final location. Actually, it's going to rotate and sit towards the back. So let's kind of go through a little bit of the design. If you're on the Facebook page and you take a look at it, you can see the design that from the very back wall there, where you cannot, maybe you can see it, there's a couple 4x4s that are sticking up. Those are temporary, just to give me an idea how far things are when we're dealing with it. This is about 5 feet from front to back. And the reason being is because I want Denver to have some depth. So Union Station alone is over 12 inches deep. So just understand that 12 inches plus is going to be moved, is going to be nothing but buildings on the back wall. So Denver's going to have some depth to it. I'm going to do a lot of buildings, a lot of flats, a lot of different things like that. And so, but the tracks, other than track 1 and track 2 of Union Station for the passenger service, those are a little farther back. They're at 32 and 36 inches back. The rest of the tracks are all within 30 inches of the front edge. And so that being said, this is going to allow me to have a lot of depth into the Denver area. But that creates the other problem that I have to have. Backdrops and everything must be built in the back before I work on all the track work up front. That also leads me to my last dilemma that I had to deal with. Now I have these shelves, and these shelves, of course, I'll pull out so I can work on anything that's in here, but also reach back to the back lower area back in there and work on that. And that gives me a little over 10 inches, probably about 11.5 inches, I think, to work on into the track. Again, all the track that's being covered is straight. It's just straight track. So really the only thing I'm going to be doing back there for the most part is cleaning, maybe picking up a car that derailed, but I haven't had one derail in any of the straight track yet, so I'm not expecting it to start anytime soon. And if there was, I would have fixed it so I didn't have to deal with it, because I don't want to be opening these things up all the time. But that then means that because I'm going to pull this out, this is the bench work for Denver. Now, unlike typically, this is a 7-foot span here. I would normally do a 3.5 inch, and a 7-foot span on a 3.5 L girder doesn't need any additional support. But in this case, because of trying to keep a grade of about 1.5% throughout the whole layout for the main line, because I am going to be running steam locomotives, I needed to try and find a way to get this without raising it up all that additional inch. So you would have 3.5 plus 3/4 inch, or I'd be raising it roughly 4.25 inches. And this is a 2-inch by L girder that's in here. Actually, it's 2.25 inches down here. And from the middle, it sags some. For the most part, there's no reason for me to have to lean on this or to do any of those type of things, but I want to support this across here. Originally, I was thinking, well, I'll do some steel work, weld some stuff up, and I'll build a steel bench frame up on top of this, or aluminum frame. But the more I looked at that and the more I looked at the cost, I'm like, that doesn't make sense. And it's kind of a running joke on the Facebook page. Everyone that joins the Facebook page immediately knows, it comments on the huge glue lamp beam that runs down the center of the entire layout room. And on there it's got all the signs, and I'll show up with a picture of what's on the glue lamp beam now. But it's always a comment that everybody notices when they come in. Oh my gosh, look at that huge glue lamp beam. And it is a big beam, don't get me wrong. And so I was sitting one day trying to think about it, and I was looking at the glue lamp beam and having a conversation with someone, and it dawned on me how I could strengthen these pieces here without adding any more height. I have 1/8 inch, 1 inch, 16th inch 6 aluminum bar that's going to go in here. So what I'll do is I'll cut a groove in here and I will epoxy this into place. That additional aluminum will give this strength not to flex. So if somebody leans on anything, it'll hold them up. If I have to reach back here or do anything where I've got to put a little weight on it, it should easily hold 85, 90 pounds with no problem whatsoever. Now, of course, I weigh more than that. I don't think that I'll be able to sit on top of this by any stretch of the imagination, but I should be able to do all the track work and everything I need to do to get this done with no problems with that whatsoever. So there is going to be one frame, L frame here, an L frame on the back. There's another frame that'll go down between, that goes underneath the bench, that will actually be 3.5 inches thick, running from the edge, and it's coming from this edge right here. I don't know if, yeah, you can see it right there. It'll be coming across. So it'll tuck under here, 3.5 inches going all the way across. And that'll give the support I need to hold that layup up there. It is possible, I don't know, we'll find out. It is possible that I'll be able to sit on top of there. I'm not going to promise anything, but calculations, I talked to my brother Joe, the engineer, and said, yeah, can this work? And he's like, yeah, it'll hold it. So we'll see what comes from that. But that's a little bit of what's going on. So that is the last, when this comes through here, so we'll come out of Longmont, we'll come down through this area in here, and then we will come down here with the main line. By that time, the backdrop should be up. The backdrop is going to be a real generic backdrop with some buildings in the back. I'm thinking really about doing nothing more than just clouds on the back, and doing reliefs and maybe a couple flats on the backdrop to give the sense that it is a big city and we're sitting at the center or the heart of the railroad through here. And then that'll then come around from here and then eventually come over to here. And this location right here is going to be the oil refinery. So that's what we've been working on. Things are beginning to move. Now that we're getting to areas where I'm not laying 400, 500 feet of staging track and I'm actually starting to lay main line, it should go a little quicker, but because of the designs, some of the designs and things I've had to do, backdrops are going to slow me down just a bit. But I'm really starting to see the light at the end of the tunnel and starting to see this done. So I'll finish this video with a few still shots of the layout and some of the things that we've got done. But until next time, happy modeling.